Hello viewers, today I will teach you how to do good soldering on PCB because good soldering or quality soldering is a basic requirement for any engineer, maybe from electronics or electrical or even mechatronic engineer. If solder quality is not good, your project can malfunction. So today I will discuss the basic requirements of the soldering techniques. Now, first requirement of good soldering is, now this is that PCB. Let us assume that this is 1 year old. So, if this is very old, surface must be oxidized or oxidation layer will be there at the top. So, what I will do, I will take some sandpaper and will scratch this, and so that new surface is exposed. At new copper surface, soldering quality will be very good. So, this is first requirement of good soldering technique. Now, second requirement of good soldering is this tip of solder is very important. This tip should be at 45 degrees because I will keep vertical. I will keep this at 45 to PCB, so tip will be at 90 to the component. Tip will be totally vertical to the component, and then I will feed this solder wire to tip. So tip should be at vertical position when you grind at 45 and keep at 45 degrees. This angle is 45. So as a result, this tip will be at 90 to the PCB. So this will make contact with the component easily. Third point is this solder quality should be good, because this is a main criteria or a point in the good soldering. If this is 60-40, 60 tin and 40 lead, then only you can have a good soldering. Otherwise, if lead quantity is more in this solder material, your overall solder quality will be poor at the end of soldering process. So this is very important. And fourth point is this flux. I will advise newcomers to use some flux while attempting soldering for the first time. So you put your wire in this flux and then take out and then solder on PCB. This flux will help in improving the quality of the soldering process or solder. Now I want to fix or solder this component in this PCB. Now this component also may be old, and oxidation formation may be there at the end of this. So I will remove this oxidation this way, or you can use sandpaper or your screwdriver. I will remove oxidation on this sides of this resistance. Then I will put this solder in PCB. So now here I have put this component here after scratching, and I have bent its ends at 90 degrees and then cut its ends at 90 so that when I hold this, component should not fall down. So bending of leads should be at 90 degrees. So, and then I have cut this leads, this will not fall down. Now I will solder this component here. Now for soldering, I will take my soldering wire, dip this into flux, right? Take some flux, and then I will keep my solder at 45 degrees to PCB so that my tip is at 90 to the PCB. Now I will keep my tip near this at 45 to PCB. Now I will, after dipping in flux, I will feed this solder wire to this solder for soldering. Now remember here, this PCB as well as component and this solder wire all are at room temperature. So if I feed this my wire to component, this wire will not melt because that component is at room temperature. So what is the technique? You feed this solder wire to the tip of the solder, because solder is at 300 or so temperature. So if I feed this solder wire to tip, this solder wire will automatically melt, will go down. Keep this solder iron for a few seconds. You may count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you remove this, you will have a round and shining soldered joint. If your solder joint has some tip here, tip formation is there. Tip formation indicates either solder quality is poor or you have given less heat to this solder. Now if after soldering this becomes round and soldered joint is shining, that means your solder is perfect, and no tip formation, because tip can hurt your fingers also. No tip formation, and this solder is shining. Now this is an indication that solder is done in a proper way, and solder quality or solder wire quality is also okay. So this is the technique of this. I repeat again, when I want to solder, this is other end, if I want to solder this, keep solder at 45 so the tip is at 90. Again I will feed this solder to tip and not to the component. This is a mistake generally people do. They feed solder wires inside of this component. Component is at room temperature, this will not melt or you will have a poor quality of solder. Feed this solder wire to tip and not to the component. So if I feed to the solder tip, this will melt and solder will automatically come down, and after some time if I remove this, you may count 1 2 3 4 5, and if you remove this you will have shining and round solder. So this is an indication of good soldering quality, and this is a right practice or technique of soldering component on the PCB. I hope you have followed this. Thank you.